Hi, hello. Thank you for watching. This video is much different than other videos I have made. I speak a lot about healing and spiritual matters, and what I'm about to speak about, it does relate and tie into spirituality. Yeah, after all, everything is connected. Absolutely everything in the universe. I am learning how to better channel my energy when I feel something in the moment. Whatever that if an intuitive thought comes to me, or if I feel a certain emotion, or if I feel certain energy. And like, for example, right now, what I'm feeling is empathy, compassion, and slight anger. But not anger as in just displaced, irrational anger. This is anger because of our corrupt system in this country, the United States. I am learning how to channel my anger and all other emotions for righteous causes, and to bring about awareness, healing, hopefully healing, peace. I lived in Philadelphia for a while last year. I went and visited, and then chose to move there and try to live there permanently. But if you know me, I am a nomad, a bit of a traveler. This is what I am called to do, to travel to different places around the country, around the world, and just live out my purpose and work in synergy with others. So I moved to Philadelphia to serve in the organization AmeriCorps. I was placed with Catholic Social Services. But other than that, I also was involved with helping a phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal woman, Sherry Honkala. I could speak for a very long time on her, so I'm not even going to do that in this video. I can provide information below the video and in my blog post, whatever, about Sherry. Sherry is fucking amazing. I'll just leave it at that. I was also involved with some other initiatives and organizations, and right before I moved out of Philadelphia, I was beginning to become involved in the peaceful protests going on in downtown Philly, to support and spread awareness about the inequality and unjust murders against minorities, especially African Americans. If you don't know much about Philadelphia, let me tell you something. It is corrupt. It is way corrupt. And I was informed, I was shown some very, very interesting information about the city of Philadelphia And more importantly, the police department. The police department had ended up being under internal investigation, the FBI, for many years, and they just closed the case in, I believe, 2013. Maybe it was closed in 2014. If I'm off by a year or two, forgive me. I have been in the middle of writing a piece. I have stopped writing that piece. It's just a very heavy topic, and I just wasn't sure when to share it, or if I should share it. It's just a heavy topic. But it involves the police department. Okay? While I was living there, in the city of Philadelphia, I was targeted not once, not twice, multiple times. I have a feeling that at some point I was racially profiled. I was living in an area, a neighborhood that is well known in the city as being like one of the #1 drug infested areas, and where it's sold the most. Okay, it's a part of Kensington in the city of Philadelphia. More importantly, be in Indiana. There have been books written about this neighborhood, written about the very street I was living on. While this neighborhood is pretty much predominantly Hispanic, Puerto Rican, I noticed a lot of Puerto Ricans, just as I am Puerto Rican, a lot of Latinos, some African Americans, very little Caucasians. And usually, if there were Caucasians that came into the neighborhood, these were the ones coming in to buy drugs. Usually. But I think there were some Caucasians that did live there and do live there. But most of them are Latinos. Okay? That's just some background information. I want to tell you that I had, in the area I'm living in, okay, been pulled over more than once. They saw my car. It's not even it wasn't a fancy car. Pulled over for that. Questioned about my plates. I did still have Indiana plates. I was questioned a lot. So I automatically knew, they assumed I was in the area to buy drugs. Also, the way I look. I dress very different than people that live in that area. Very different than a lot of people in that city, period. But in that area, sometimes I even wore a scarf around my head. Some scarves that were gifted to me by my Pakistani friends. What else? Also, I was pulled over one morning, what's it called, at an intersection that was going into Roosevelt Boulevard. If you live in Philly or visited Philly, you may know, or probably already know, that Roosevelt is considered like the road of death or something like that. I forgot what it's called. It's a very long road that goes throughout Philly, but I believe it also might be a state road. I can't remember, but the speed limit there is very fast in some parts, so it can be difficult getting into and out of Roosevelt Boulevard. It's very confusing unless you've lived there for enough time to start getting used to how to get off this road, the exits and intersections, all of that. Anyways, so one morning I was at a stop sign had to yield to get into Roosevelt Boulevard to go home. It was raining, so I made sure to take my time. I looked to my left. There's one car coming by, so I let it pass. I look again and nobody is there. So I slowly pull forward into the right lane, and next thing you know, I'm hearing a honking, which scared the shit out of me. And I look in my rearview mirror and I have this big white van behind me, and then lights go on. It was the police in a caddy wagon, whatever you want to call it. Paddy wagon, caddy, whatever the fuck it's called. Okay, so I get pulled over and I'm completely confused. I'm confused where this truck came from to begin with, okay? He pulls me over and tells me I cut him off, that I didn't yield. And I was like so confused. I was like, sir, there was nobody there. I looked to my left. Nobody was there. He wasn't listening to anything. Of course, I'm not dumb. I'm the one having the experience. I'm not going to lie. In fact, nobody was there. I already knew this police officer was speeding down this road, which many people do speed down Roosevelt Boulevard. And he was speeding down it. And because I pulled out while he wasn't there, he must have been speeding very fast to finally be right behind me. And it pissed him off, and he abused his authority and gave me a ticket, which I tried to dispute multiple times, and I wasn't able to be in person to dispute this, even though a court clerk advised me to fax in a letter and my explanation and description of the situation. I even drew out a map, a diagram, and everything. Faxed in this letter, and still I was found guilty. I have tried to ignore this because I have other stuff I have been needing to take care of this whole year, because this took place, I believe, sometime last year. I think November or December. And yet here I am having to address this once again, because I was falsely given the ticket, falsely accused, and basically being intimidated. It's all about intimidation, being intimidated to pay a ticket for something I did not do. Our system uses intimidation. Even if you didn't do something, guess what they do? What do? They hold it over your head. They suspend your license. They give you limited options. So you're faced with either you try and pay, or you don't pay and don't have a license, or you don't pay and drive without a license, and then, you never know. Maybe you might get pulled over again. Depends where you live, police officers love to pull people over in some places. Okay? And Philly is one of them. Philly is one of them. They will pull you over for whatever. It is crazy. I kid you not. I think what I might start doing is start a mini series of things that I observed and experienced while I lived in the state of Pennsylvania. More importantly, the city of Philadelphia. Let's keep this to Philadelphia. Because this goes beyond tickets. I literally just tried to have a very peaceful, humane conversation with someone from the court via email and explained the situation to her in detail, and told her that I'm a journalist and activist and a volunteer, and why I was there in the city and how I was targeted, and I did not commit this failure to yield. Along with another ticket that I was given. I was targeted the night we had a very peaceful protest. Right after that, I was pulled over. Yeah. And this woman is like, no offense, she's speaking to me very robotically. I can tell she's just spitting out information that she has been trained to say, and not speaking to me from a place of humanity and compassion. She is literally regurgitating information she has been brainwashed to say. And no matter what I'm saying to her, I even decided to give her a little bit of information that I know about the city and the internal investigation against the police department and some other things, and she still robotically spit information back at me and is not giving me any option, really. There's like two options, which is to pay or show up in person, which I cannot show up in person at this time, as I am about to move somewhere else. This literally brought tears to my eyes. I sat here crying. And it wasn't even, it's like frustration, but it goes beyond me and my situation. This was not frustration and being pissed off at this exactly. I literally felt this wave of empathy and sadness come over me, because if I am experiencing something like this over a flipping traffic violation, what do you think happens to those who are falsely accused, confronted, targeted, attacked, hurt, abused, and murdered falsely? If this is something simple as a fucking lie that a police officer said just to help him meet his quota, and something he did out of anger because he was speeding, he was in the wrong, but in the moment he became angry and he allowed his emotions to control him and do something that is not just. Something this simple. What do you think is happening to citizens all over this country when faced with someone who has that kind of authority? And if they are not in a great mood, if they're not in the right state of mind, if they are not someone who is consciously aware and conscious, someone who is moral, someone who is standing and working in the name of justice and righteousness, and truly helping hold the balance. We have police officers around this country who are not emotionally sound and therefore not spiritually sound. I am no one to judge. This is not judgment. This is observation. This is fact. There need to be conscious people. Therefore, if you are conscious, that means you are self-aware, aware of self. Therefore, more in balance than someone who is not aware, someone who is not conscious. Therefore, someone who has a lower level of consciousness. In the police force. We need a radical revolution to where there are people who are spiritually aware, spiritually conscious, serving as a police officer. Not everyone is a police officer. Not everyone is a good cook. Not everyone is a good house cleaner. Not everyone is a good teacher. I can tell you because I've worked in the public school system. And I have witnessed with my own eyes people who are serving as teachers, and I can clearly see that this is not the best fit for them because they do not have the right qualities to interact, educate, inspire children, our younger generations. I can tell you this from personal experience. So the same goes for every single kind of role in society. Not everyone is fit for a police officer role. End of story. I think that's the end of my rant, my conscious rant, my Kali mode, anger, energy channeled rant. And I think there is more to come because I have a whole lot to say. A whole lot to say that I have not said for a while, and neither have I written about it, and maybe it is time to. Because it's time to wake the fuck up. Thank you for listening. I hope you understand the curse words I used is more of expression and not to offend or be rude. But then again, if it resonates, it resonates. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I hope in some way I have made you more consciously aware of what is going on in our country. May the light always guide you. Always. Always. Namaste.